Hi there, this is Isaiah Gardner narrating a presentation created by Austin Duncan, Amanda Gallett, Lorette Edwards, Macy Flesher, and of course myself, about Cai Guo-Qiang. To begin, I thought that we'd go into a little bit of his background, just to gain a better understanding of who he is as a person. Cai Guo-Qiang was born on December 8, 1957 in Zhuangzhou City in China. His father worked at a bookstore and was a collector of old books and manuscripts, and was an amateur calligrapher and painter. In 1966, when Mao Zedong's Cultural Revolution began, explosions from cannons, artillery batteries, and fireworks were common in Zhuangzhou. During the Cultural Revolution, all art and literature was outlawed, but Cai's father encouraged him to do things like reading Western classics because it was fundamental for his development. Between the years of 1981 and 1985, Cai attended the Shanghai Theatre Academy and later graduated with a degree in stage design. While attending university, he was greatly influenced by the sense of theatricality, spatial arrangement, and theater production derived from his classes. Following graduation from university in 1985, he began experimenting with gunpowder and oil paint on canvas. By doing so, he was able to connect his background in theatrics with his love for this medium of art. Cai moved to Japan with his wife, Hong Wu, in 1986. During the 9 years that they lived in Japan, he spent his spare time learning Japanese and further developing his experimentations with gunpowder. It was during this time in Japan that he realized he could ignite explosives onto a canvas. From 1986 to 1995, Cai lived in Japan learning how to refine his preferred medium, which was gunpowder. At the end of 1995, Cai moved to New York City, where he continued to make a form of performance art also referred to as gunpowder land art by the New York Times. In 2008, Cai Guo-Qiang became the first Chinese artist to ever have a one-man retrospective at the Guggenheim Museum in New York City. Cai has also been able to use his artwork in platforms such as the 2008 Olympics, where he served as the director of visual and special effects at the opening ceremonies. Other than the Olympics, in 2013, Cai created a 12-minute explosion event titled One Night Stand for Paris's Nuit Blanche celebration, which is an annual art celebration held in October. Having grown up during Mao Zedong's Cultural Revolution, Cai Guo-Qiang was exposed to the concept of explosions at an early age. As a child, he began having strange, recurring dreams of a firework display at an empty Tiananmen Square, where he was the only spectator. It was early in Cai's experimentation with gunpowder and firecrackers that he recalled saying, "Playing with fireworks sets me free." Growing up as a teenager, in a world where Cai felt oppressed and restricted, he felt liberated through the medium of gunpowder. He also saw the effect that westernization had on the people where he grew up and wanted to create art without westernization. He had a goal: to break the status quo. It was after he attended school at the Shanghai Theatre Academy that he realized the background information he now had in theater could affect his performance art. When he moved to New York, he noticed how unique his style of art was, and started making it more of a performance event. Regardless, if he was making physical pictures or full-on installations, his pieces were meant to be impermanent and temporarily impactful. This reflects a theme found in his art, the beauty of death. Guo-Qiang stood out to us due to his unique use of gunpowder and eccentric, eye-catching artworks. His works are impactful and meaningful. He has experience making art with many different cultures, including Japanese and Chinese culture. Today, he lives in New York, one of the largest cultural hubs in the West, and displays his work there. Cai uses art to make statements that are universal and relate to all viewers, including us. What we did in this presentation was we selected 3 pieces of artwork and chose to do artistic critiques and analyses for each. The first one, which I created, is Inopportune Stage 2, made in 2004. The next 2 slides are my artistic critique and analysis of the piece, but I'll stay here for you to take in the images I've provided. Afterwards, I'll briefly pause over each slide for you to read them, should you choose to do so. My initial reaction to this piece was a feeling of confusion, anger, and a little bit of disorientation. That is, I was a little disoriented by the seemingly haphazard elements of the piece. This piece made me think of war and violence. It reminded me of anti-poaching ads, many of which show cruelty, violence, and death against animals. To give you a brief description of this, you can see, although it's a little limited in these photos, that there are 9 tigers jumping convulsively in the air, pierced by arrows made of brass, threaded bamboo shafts, and feathers. There's a mountain stage prop with papier-mâché tigers upon it, as well as the tigers all around it. All those tigers are made from papier-mâché, plaster, fiberglass, resin, and painted hide, and the prop I had mentioned just a minute ago is made from styrofoam, wood, canvas, and acrylic paint. Each of the tigers are separate from one another, suspended in the air in different forms by what seems to be a wire. My interpretation of this piece was that it was a reflection of human violence in war, in a way, as well as the eradication of Bengal tigers, which are native to China. This piece presents some ideas of humankind versus nature, and in a way is a symbol for humanity's impact upon the world, both natural and against mankind itself. This piece, I think, calls for peace, both towards animals, towards nature, and towards humans. All in all, I thought it was a successful presentation of his ideas, and it tackles really big concepts regarding nature and humanity, as well as violence, and the violence enacted by humanity upon nature. I thought it was a creative and an unusual presentation. It was eye-catching, with potent imagery that elicited its intended response from the viewer. And, all in all, I thought it was a very successful postmodern approach to societal wrongdoings. The second work that we chose was Reflection, made in 2004. The next two slides are Lorette's artistic critique and analysis of the piece, but I'll stay here for you to take in the images she's provided, and like last time, I'll briefly pause over each slide for you to read them, should you choose to do so. I'm presenting this from her own perspective in her words. When I first looked at the work, I was overcome by the chaos of the piece. After adjusting to this, I was a bit saddened by the fact that many of the pieces were broken. I was confused because I wanted to know how and why these delicate figures were broken. This piece contains tons of small porcelain figures that are spilling out of a boat and onto the ground the boat sits on. These figures are rejects from a porcelain factory that only had a small issue. Kuan Yin is a god that Cai Guo-Qiang worships. There is a great amount of contrast between the old rotting boat and the shiny white figures depicting that god. Guo-Qiang went to Iwaki to find out the story of the people that live there. He didn't want to hear about globalization, he wanted personal stories. He shows the beauty of destruction with the clash between a decaying ship and these bright porcelain figures, which he found there. This piece serves as a reminder that everything dies, no matter how beautiful it is. All in all, Lorette thought that this piece was a success. Its dramatic nature immediately captivated her and left her wondering more. The contrast between the aesthetic of the boat and the porcelain emphasizes how death and decay can truly touch anything. This piece, we think, is a postmodern approach to society and its wrongdoings and speaks about a universal truth by using different materials. Our third piece was Heritage, which was made in 2013 and was selected by Austin Duncan for analysis. Again, the next two slides are Austin's artistic critique and analysis of the piece, but, as I've done before, I'll stay here for you to take in the images he's provided. And, like last time and the time before, I'll briefly pause over each slide for you to read them, should you choose to do so. I'm presenting this from his own perspective, in his own words. Upon first seeing the piece, my immediate reaction was awe in wake of the beauty of the piece. The more I viewed the piece, the more I began to realize how unnerving the scene would be. In one moment, peace, total serenity as all the animals are together and drinking. But, the next moment, when the animals lift their heads, all bets are off, as several of these animals have a predator-prey relationship with the other animals shown. Then I thought about how the majority of these animals don't naturally share the same biomes, so there must be an outside force that has brought them together to this central location. My most pressing reaction was confusion between the contrast of this forever lifeless animals and the constantly shifting water. The piece in total consists of 99 life-size animals standing in sand, drinking from a shared watering hole. The animals are created with such detail that if I were to view this without context, I would believe they are real. The water in the pool reflects with such clarity that it almost seems like a blue-tinted mirror. The mechanism above drops water into the pool to disturb the scene and creates ripples in the water. I think this installation delivers its message through the questions it forces the viewer to consider. These animals do not naturally cohabitate, for the most part at least, so some external force has caused them all to come to the same location, an overcrowded watering hole. More often than not, this style of clumping and overcrowdedness occurs due to habitat destruction, mainly a result of human influence. Given enough time, if the animals are real, they would drink the water more quickly than the mechanism delivers it, resulting in conflict over the resource and the death of some animals. There's also the juxtaposition of the eternally still replicas and the ever-changing rippling water, disturbed by the drop mechanism. I think this is the clearest indication that this is another mankind versus nature piece, because the mechanism, being that mechanisms are symbolic of humans, are in stark contrast with nature. Austin said that he would easily consider this work to be a success, and that it delivers its message clearly without needing to beat you over the head with it. The overcrowding nature of this watering hole, and the gathering of predators and prey leave thoughts of unease with the viewer, for he knows it can only end badly. Development and industrialization, characterized by the droplet mechanism, has brought us the modern sensibilities and specialization integral to our societies, but in this process we have brought chaos and unease upon the natural world. The viewer is left to draw his own conclusions from here regarding the morality of our advancement. On this last slide, we've marked the websites that we gathered our information from, so if you want to take a look into them, I'll make sure to keep this open for you at the end. And with that, I'm wrapping up this presentation of Guo-Qiang. We've presented 3 of his artworks, our artistic critiques and analyses for each, and given you some background to his personal life and how his life connects to his art. Hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you.